Hello, I am Lauren Brantley Books, and I am here today with a review of An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. I have had the pleasure of reading one of River Solomon's books before called The Deep. Feel free to check out that video after this one. An Unkindness of Ghosts takes place far in the future. Humanity now lives in a spaceship called the Matilda, which is headed for some fabled paradise. The Matilda is so vast that there are agricultural fields and trees growing on this ship. The twist is that Matilda's social structure is a totalitarian, highly religious society modeled after the antebellum South, where the lower deck passengers, mostly black people, are oppressed, enslaved, and mistreated by the white elite. The ship is split into three distinct social castes: the upper deck elite, who are exclusively white, the middle deck, and finally the lower deck, which is mostly black. The lead is Aster, a non-binary, probably autistic person who works as a doctor and assistant to the Surgeon General, a man named Theo. Aster was orphaned young. Their mother disappeared, presumably by suicide, leaving behind only a set of journals which may give any indication of who Aster's mother really was as a person. And these journals may hold the key to uncovering more secrets about the Matilda. The way I read Aster is that they are autistic. I am autistic myself, so I may be a little bit biased, but Aster's technical scientific way of thinking, struggles with social interaction, special interest in their mother's journals, and finally the fact that they are low empathy makes me think that Aster is autistic. I just want to point out that being low empathy isn't a bad thing or makes you an uncaring person. It just means you don't experience other people's emotions. You can still have sympathy and compassion without empathy or with low empathy. It was nice getting to see a queer autistic black protagonist. This is definitely not the norm, and I was glad to see it in this book. The other two characters this book follows is the Surgeon General of the ship, a mixed-race man named Theo, who has a very close bond with Aster. I wouldn't describe their bond as romantic, but as a close friendship, maybe veering into queer platonic territory. I think both readings of their relationship is valid. Theo kind of has a strange status in society. He's the nephew of the man who eventually becomes the totalitarian head of the Matilda. His mixed heritage means he can never be fully part of the white elite, but he still enjoys some privileges and status as the ship's Surgeon General. The next character whose perspective we get is Aster's aunt, Annie Malusine, who works as a babysitter for the upper deck people, reminiscent in the way that in the antebellum South that black women were often used as nursemaids for their white children. Both Theo and Annie are characters who present unique viewpoints into life aboard this oppressive generation ship. I wouldn't say that Unkindness of Ghosts has a definite plot. It's much more about describing what life is like for various peoples within the society. There are plot points, but the real meat of the story is just seeing what people's day-to-day life is like on a deeply racist, classist generation ship. We see the lower deckers be forced to work in the fields. We see Aster and Theo doing medical work. We see the botanarium that Aster created in secret and is the refuge. I honestly like stories that are more slice of life, where there isn't a beat by beat plot, but more just the book lets us see what life is like for the characters. This book does touch on some pretty heavy things, including racism, police brutality, suicide, public executions, religious abuse, and physical abuse. The author does a wonderful job navigating these dark themes, especially themes related to racial discrimination, police brutality, and totalitarianism. This society feels complex and nuanced. There was so much care in crafting this fictional society that the different social classes of people speak in different dialects. It's a really cool touch and emphasizes the social divide between classes. This book really has the best of the generationship tropes and mixes them with heavy themes that are relevant to today's equal and racially divided society. Books like these are not just a look into a very possible future given the discrimination people of color face today, but also a look back at some of our country's worst injustices and puts a spotlight on how ugly and inhumane our society has been at times, particularly towards black people. I also just personally really love the generationship trope. I know it's a staple of the sci-fi genre, but it's always cool getting to see what kind of society humanity would create on a generationship. Every author has their own unique take, and such generationships are a very real possibility in the far future. If that is the case, then I think it's important to have depictions of oppressive societies like in Unkindness of Ghosts as a warning as to what our society could devolve into. It's definitely more on the pessimistic side of what our society could evolve into as space travel becomes a real thing, but I think we need to look at a worst case scenario. It's only with the guidance of such nuanced stories that we can avert such future oppression. We can't forget the injustices of the past, for if we do, that's the right invitation for humanity to give into some of its worst behavior. Stories like An Unkindness of Ghosts remind me that a bright future is only possible if we remember and avert the just injustices of the past and today, that as a society is not a static thing where you reach a goal and stay there for all time. A society is a performance. You are taught by the people who came before you how to act, and in turn you teach the new arrivals their place in society. This can be as good or as bad as we let it be, but I realize society has a long uphill battle against injustice, and An Unkindness of Ghosts is a standout story that reminds us to have a better future, we must reconcile with the dark parts of our past as to not repeat them in the future. I personally think this book is a must read for science fiction lovers. It's so good that it's hard to believe that this is just the debut book of Rivers Solomon. With all the care this book was crafted with, you'd think this would be coming from a seasoned author with many books under their belt. That's not the case. I will definitely be reading future books by Rivers Solomon. In my opinion, their works are some of my personal favorites. Both In a Kindness and Ghosts and The Deep are among my favorite books, and I think both are necessary reading. I'm Lauren Brantley Books, and thank you for listening to my review of An Unkindness of Ghosts. If you've read this book before, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. If you want to hear more reviews from me, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be notified about future videos. Thank you, and I will see you so much in the next review. Bye!